Hello and welcome back, everybody. For everyone who was stuck behind a rock or underneath a rock, recently Selen was, terminated, and we have this issue where they put out this long scathing report on her, and said that she was being harassed, etc., by livers, which is not something that Selen ever said, in Dokibird ever said on any of their things. And that she hadn't gotten permissions and other things like that, and that was all community noted, as you can see right here, that she did get permissions, she did get everything that she needed. And then later on, after things didn't die down, they had Illyria Pandora, Vox Akuma, and Ike Eveland go on to a stream, a pre-recorded stream, where they tried to refute as many things as they could, said things that were unsubstantiated according to Dokibird, said things like, that they felt betrayed, that their names were in there, their personal information was in there, and that there were recordings in there of Vox Akuma as well, and he didn't appreciate that, and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Then we move on to, because Dokibird complained that had private information that should have never been shared, we have Nijisanji pretty much being like, while they are in our corporation, there is no requirement for NDAs, like NDAs don't count within the organization, there is no need for confidentiality, etc., and they investigated themselves and they found that they did absolutely nothing wrong. And of course, right here, it got community noted as well. Dokibird said that everything was promised to be private. Then we move on to Riku Tazumi doing a addressing their concerns type of thing, right after, probably about 15-20 minutes after the original one of Illyria Pandora was done. Nijisanji did that on their actual official channel. That didn't go very well because it seemed very not like straight up when they were doing that, because it just seemed like they were just trying to cover their tracks. And that leads me to Legal Mindset. If you want, you can watch his streams. His streams are like freaking, he did like a 7-hour stream last time, and I think he's going to be doing another 5-hour stream today. I can't get all of it in a video, but he went through every single legal portion. He's an actual lawyer. You get through every single legal portion that he understands, and saying pretty much that Nijisanji is screwing themselves over, from what I understood. They getting themselves into a lot of trouble by doing what they're doing. Just on a legal standpoint, they're getting themselves into a lot of trouble. So go take a look at him and take a look at that. Right now, what I want to look at is this. The person says, I work in comms for a living. You can only think of one explanation for Nijisanji's bizarre PR strategy. Like everyone else, I've been confused and dismayed by Nijisanji's bizarre self-destructive approach to first breaking the news of Selen's termination and responding to Dokibird's statement. Fans have thrown about a lot of to explain Nijisanji's approach, ranging from plausible sounding accounts of the facts to feverish rats straight belly of VT. I can't claim any inside knowledge about the specific set facts in the situation, but I do work in comms for a living and can speak to the general dynamics play in public disputes between highly visible actors and which one parties are subject to NDA. Based on my professional experience with my knowledge of the statements from Nijisanji and Dokibird, the explanation here seems fairly obvious. Nijisanji misinterpreted the personal account of workplace bullying that Selen sent them shortly before their firing, and they misinterpreted this document hard. I don't know if Nijisanji missed the mark here, because Selen's accompanying document for this account was ambiguous, because there was a mistake in translation from one of both law firms, because EN management adopted a wholly cynical interpretation of the document to try to defend in the court of public opinion. But I'm pretty confident that everything that's been happened so far has been explained to this fundamental failure to communicate. If I'm right, the timeline goes something like this. Selen posts her last cup of coffee music video for Perm's approval. Management leaves her on red for 37 hours and then fails to get back to her for another 15 hours as Selen goes ahead and posts the video without final Perm's check. There are a lot that we don't know about the background and context here. For instance, management already seen the video prior to this final check. If yes, why hadn't they raised the issue of graduated livers proactively? If no, why hadn't they seen this video during the months-long process of its creation? Did anyone in management give Selen a deadline for Perm's check that she then blew by? I tend to think the answers to these questions are not favorable to Nijisanji, since they would have shown evidence that Selen was at fault for the missed Christmas release date during Illyria's response stream if such evidence existed. Regardless, the answers to these questions really actually do not matter for a breakdown of Niji's thought process throughout the subsequent PR nightmare. Both management and talent reach out to Selen about her decision to post the music video without full perms, and shortly after this she attempts blank. Management reaches out to Selen's emergency contact and removes Selen's access to socials, posting a skin-walked explanation for her absence in December 28th. Again, there's a lot we don't know here. Were other talents management mocking, cruel, or abusive in their communication, or were their words just interpreted as such by Selen? If talent management were abusive, was this a one-time thing or a larger pattern of behavior? Once again, the following version of events makes sense no matter how you answer these questions. The thing that matters here is that any version of these events, a comms team involved in the decision-making process realizes at this exact moment that they're dealing with a potential PR nightmare. It would be disastrous if the public learned that beloved Lever Selen Tatsuki attempted blank because of harassment or mismanagement in the Nijian workplace. It's not actually a comms job to manage a frayed relationship with talent, but at this point, there are probably discussions about potential responses depending on which way the situation develops. Selen hires a legal representative to help mediate her business relationship with Nijisanji, and both parties discuss potential next steps and remedies. Talks between Selen and management about the return of Nijisanji break down, and both sides realize that some sort of split is inevitable by late January. Nijisanji wants Selen to explain the music video was taken down because of negligence on her part. Selen believes that management is responsible for the failure and additionally has another grievances about how she's been treated in Nijisanji before, during, and after the inciting event. Per Dokibird's first statement on the matter, she asked that to leave Nijisanji on more neutral terms on January 26th, per her second statement on the matter. Nijisanji's legal team was unresponsive after this request. Frustrated by Nijisanji's unresponsiveness, Selen's lawyer suggests that they send a personal account of her experience in Nijisanji to Niji's legal team in order to help them understand her grievances. And my understanding of the situation is accurate. This is the exact moment that everything goes to S. Per Nijisanji's termination notice, we know that Selen told Nijisanji through her legal representation that she intends to speak up about her experiences at Nijisanji if she's terminated. Moreover, Selen Tatsuki insisted that if the negotiations did not progress, she would proceed to release a statement regarding her claims to the public. This is what Nijisanji said. Now they received a document written in a personal tone alleging all sorts of abusive practices from management and or talent and filled with potentially sensitive information about other livers. Per Selen's second statement, she wrote this account to document my thoughts and history with evidence during the darkest time mentally, and included in it privacy information that should not be public. Someone in Nijisanji's legal team comes to the conclusion cynically or naively, based on ambiguous instructions from Selen or based on bad translation from staff, it does not matter, that account of Selen is in fact a statement that she intends to release if she is terminated, and scrambles the jets. So I think she's going to release something, and they scramble the jets. Immediately, the comm team goes into full crisis mode and scrambles to get a termination out the door so they can get the first word in. In my experience working in comms during times of crisis, perfect immediately goes out the window and is replaced by quick. There's an enormous advantage to being the first actor to explain their version of events to the public, and then every experienced communications team will make sloppy mistakes in this race to publish. With the context in mind, it's easy to see how Nijisanji screwed up the response to Selen's account of workplace conditions. Remember, Nijisanji's legal team has already been given notice of Selen's intent to publish a statement if negotiations fall apart, and presumably has already advised her legal representative and about potential risks that come with violations of an NDA. Now they see this document and have decided that it's a copy of Selen's statement, so they think that she's decided to publish this even after having been warned about the consequences of violating NDA. So I think even if she violates the NDA, she's going to do it anyways. Comms isn't part of any of this communication, but they're given a copy of the statement itself, and they're told legal says Selen intends to publish this. The comms team pulls up the termination notice they've already written for Selen, and they add a bunch of defensive language to get out ahead of the claims in her document. Things like, any color believes that claims raised by Selen Tatsuki are in fact referring to situations that arose when she was warned about her breaches of activity, rules, and attempts to shift responsibility for these violations, damaging any color Nijisanji Ian's image. Any color further believes that we and other livers under our affiliation have not engaged in unjust practices towards Selen Tatsuki. Seeing the massive storm their failed strategy has caused, legal talent, management, and comms all begin to flail, leading to PR disaster that was in the extreme. Honestly, I can't even begin to hazard to guess the precise series of events that led to this stream. There are too many unknowns about the specifics of Selen's allegations at this point. Too many parties desperate for vindication who might conceivably be in a position to dictate how the company should organize its latest efforts at crisis PR. You can read a lyric stream as a disgusting attempt to prove Selen into revealing her grievances with Nijisanji so they can be litigated public square, a talent initiated response to the real fear of personal information being leaked that management cynically encouraged in order to deflect from their own failures, or any number of other possibilities. The bottom line is that Nijisanji's talking points do not update to reflect the new terrain of public dispute. They continue to treat Doki as a walking, talking brand risk, despite her clear interest is just moving on from the controversy and just creates a whole new set of grievances and their theories and conspiracies and cliques. Not yet understanding how Nijisanji misinterpreted her account, workplace conditions, Doki fires back on Twitter, explaining her understanding that this document was private. At this point, Doki responds to the ill-conceived lyric stream, rightfully conveying her shock that it is a document that is shared with other livers. She also speculates that talent was given access to her medical records, igniting yet another round of accusations and attacks. Legal is once again called in to assess the situation of leaking private HR document medical records, which would be incredibly damaging if true. And at this point, someone finally realizes that the scope of the miscommunication Speaking as a comms professional, I'm most certain that the next statement from Nijisanji was written in lawyer, covered in flop sweat and covered in her own ass, rather than an in-house comms team. The statement alleges that in order to check the validity of her claims, Any Color Inc. shared necessary parts of information sent by her lawyer to the livers in an internal investigation, ignoring the fact that sharing any of the information of this workplace abuses would violate Selen's request for that document to remain private, and ignoring the fact that livers would not necessarily need to be informed of the allegations in order for Nijisanji to investigate the validity of Selen's claims. They also write that they have not given other talent any of the specific information documents which Selen's lawyer requested we do not share with our livers, which was proven false by the actual thing that came out, the live, which fluent readers of legalese notice is different from the specific information and documents the lawyer requested to keep private and all non-legal department priorities. The statement ends with the investigator ourselves have found nothing wrong type of reassurance, but reading between the lines, it's clear that something has broken down in Nijisanji's handling of private documents. Nijisanji's legal team has invented a new reason for why talent was shown this document to cover for the initial misunderstanding of what the document actually was, but the writing is still on the wall for paying attention. Around the same time as the statement, Doki walks back the claim of leaked medical information and reiterates that some of her information was improperly shared. She once again explains that she just wanted to move on from this chapter of her life, and has pointed that both legal comms understand that there's a possibility to de-escalate the situation. Someone from Nijisanji's side makes an overture to Doki's lawyer, and at least two parties begin to address underlying misunderstandings. Finally, Doki posts a final statement that explains the pertinent document alludes to some unspecified miscommunication without admitting any specific failures on her part, reiterates her intention to keep private information private, and calls for her fans to cease harassing talents. More than anything else discussed so far, it's the final statement that has me convinced this whole disaster started with legal's failure to properly understand Selen's account of her experiences. Doki's final tweet reads like a carefully crafted statement that has been vetted by both parties in order to put the controversy to rest. Under the hood of the statement does a lot of things at once, and it's worth unpacking them in order to understand the various concerns. Doki rebuts the specific claims that Illyra, Ike, and Vox made toward her, explaining that the recording was a one-time remnant of a pre-event mic check and the sensitive information was always intended to remain private. It allows her to get her last word in and avoids allegations, a situation where fans might be left with the impression Selen ever intended to leak the information. Doki acknowledges the potential for information to be lost in translation, thus lending support to the idea that both parties' lawyers fail to understand one another. And basically, she doesn't know how things got to this point. They're not black and white. When things are conveyed to multiple parties through different degrees of communication, things can break down. That's what she said there. Importantly, for any specific parties in Nijisanji who may have misinterpreted Selen's document, Doki gives a fig leaf justification for Nijisanji's terrible response by explaining her intentions for public comment have changed over time. Doki writes, everything I post in public about the situation was a response. If it was a month ago, I would have been different as I was angry, but I was also very low in my head. It's also not a month ago, so I accepted it. Basically, she's saying that in that case, it was kind of offering kind of a peaceful agreement to them, is what this person's saying here. Whoever is responsible for this mishap is almost certainly losing their job, but these few sentences give responsible parties the thinnest possible sliver of justification they can cite to management. Anyone who sees this boulder of layoffs rolling down the hill in their direction might possibly push for this to be included. Doki's statement ends with a request for fans to not harass livers and a straightforward explanation of her intentions to keep these matters private. Credibility is on fire now for Niji Yen, and Doki is on the party of the dispute who fans on the outside onlookers are plausibly listened to. She's always been very clear that, you don't want to harass any talents, everything like that. And she also says that she wants to move forward, and that she will not be revealing anything that, any more information that she needs to. The sentence that she mentions here, for those who wish to see receipts, documents, or anything else, hoping I will review them. I'm sorry to say, but these documents are things that should be private and, if needed, between lawyers. This is pretty much saying that Nijisanji is wrong in thinking that she was going to be spreading stuff. She's going to keep everything private because Nijisanji thought that she was going to be releasing everything. Finally, and most importantly, the statement was translated into Japanese. If everything I've laid out so far wasn't enough, the last detail convinces me that Doki's most recent statement was a collaborative, edited attempt at de-escalation. If I'm right, Nijisanji was somehow involved in vetting this final statement. It makes sense that they'd want to translate it to JP only staff and shareholders, board members to read. Remember, Doki does not speak fluent Japanese herself, so someone was either hired to translate the statement or provided the service free of charge. It's possible that one of Doki's many bilingual friends in the VTubing world offered to step in and clear any misunderstandings, but it seems more likely that someone Nijisanji either translated the document in-house or paid for the document to be translated by an outside contractor. Probably more advisable in light of everything that's happened so far, the outside contractor part. Going this route allows internal Nijisanji staff and stakeholders to really assess the situation is being resolved, while also giving Doki the chance to explain herself to JP only audiences who have largely been unsympathetic to her situation. They really have been unsympathetic to her situation, a lot of them at least. If I'm right, what should we expect next? Assuming everything I've laid out so far is more or less accurate, Nijisanji is going to have two options moving forward. The first is a long period of silence from Ian Livers, followed by a gradual ramp up of streaming and total cone of silence around the subject of selen and termination going forward. There's what a lot of PR people will tell you to do. In this version of PR strategy, Nijisanji will pivot from their misguided attacks and attempt to just memory hole these events, counting on the internet's short-term attention span, eventually taking the heat off of their talent and hoping that the fans stick around to keep the Ian branch financially stable. The second approach that Nijisanji might take is one of the more final statements explaining the failure to communicate in general terms, apologizing profusely to Selen and promising that those responsible have been fired out of a cannon into the sun. In my experience working with public-facing companies, I found that the C-suite, unfortunately, often loathe to fully explain F-ups even after implementing fixes, since the same details that might lead to a member of the public to forgive them will also lead a shareholder to lose confidence in the stock. Whether I'm right about this series of events or not, my hope is that Nijisanji makes the necessary changes in order to turn the ship around and offers the public as much transparency as they reasonably can in order to dispel the cloud hanging over the remaining talent. But walking this path would require them to make damaging admissions about profound failures while also collaborating with Doki in order to ensure that her wish to move forward is honored. And all these difficulties make me believe that a total memory holding of this disaster is more likely. That's more likely what they're going to do. They're just going to try to make everyone forget about it. Final thoughts of this person. Reduced down to its essence, basic talk of comms team is understand an issue of interest, analyze the public's view in real time, and craft messages that ultimately move the public's view in the client desired direction. If the version of events laid out here is more or less accurate, Nijisanji's PR strategy failed because they managed to screw up each of these three tasks. Nijisanji comms team may have gotten off on the wrong foot because they were given bad information about the issue of interest from legal, but their subsequent failures to adjust their strategy in response to Dokibird's statements and the public speculation are additional black marks in their own right from their original mistake. All of these communication mishaps are also separate from the failures which occurred in the sphere of talent management, where Ian managers failed to support and protect their most popular female streamer so badly that she attempted and hired her legal representative to negotiate an exit from the company. My point in analyzing the communication dimensions of this debacle is not to apologize for the mismanagement of talent, but rather to explain how a bad PR response turned into intrinsically bad piece of news for the company into a catastrophic scandal that has jeopardized the whole branch. Ironically, it might be fortunate for us that Nijisanji's comms approach missed the mark this badly, since a more competent communication strategy might have papered over these underlying problems and allowed the underlying mismanagement of talent to continue. My hope is that this catastrophe leads to Niji Ian's senior leadership to take a look into the mirror and real changes to improve the talent reactions, comms, and translation services, but based on the moves we've seen thus far, I can't say that I'm optimistic. And that is all I have to say about this whole thing. This is the whole document. You can read along if you want, or you can take a look at it. It's in the Nijisanji Ian subreddit. I thank you so much for being here. Of course, comment down below about what you think about this whole comms thing. If you are in comms, if you just think this is BS, if you think there's someone trying to defend the company, if whatever you think, just let me know. As well as taking a look at my socials down below in the description. Like and subscribe as well, of course. And take a look at the video that I have on the screen. Thank you so much. This is the Mad Salvi. I hope that you have a wonderful day today. Bye-bye.